If you're new in town or just new to this whole podcast thing, you're tuning in to Lore by Night, the podcast that discusses all things vampiric with no fear of breaching the Masquerade. In this episode, we will unravel the Inquisition in all of its forms, from its early days as the Society of Leopold to the government-funded Second Inquisition. We will explore their origins, motives, and what sort of cultures these hunters live. We live in frightening times, Neonate. The Sabbat and the Camarilla have both totally lost the plot, and the Anarchs are gaining far too much confidence. The force in which the Inquisition is acting with is concerning. Never before have the mortals been such a threat to our existence, and yet only a few individuals are doing anything to seriously act upon it. Burying our collective heads in the sand has only worsened the matter, as has striking back. As a Nosferatu, things have not been easy for me. Just one look and they know exactly what I am. Even if they don't, I am clearly some horrible monster that should be put down. I needn't your pity. I am used to the ignorance of the inexperienced kind, just how they are not used to my unnatural strength. But I digress. You are unlikely to have had much experience with the Inquisition in any of its forms. For that, I envy you. Whilst it may not help you to best approach them in a face-to-face encounter, they are, after all, mortal and easy to influence. A lesson of sorts about them may be beneficial to you all the same, beyond what I have already told you. In case you have forgotten, the Inquisition for the longest time was and still is an order found within the Roman Catholic Church, whose origins lie within our Dark Ages. They task it upon themselves to rid the world of evil and hearsay in all of its forms in the name of their pitiful God. They refer to themselves as Inquisitors and are mostly mortal. Such exceptions are not naturally acknowledged by the Inquisition, but I know from personal experience that there are far too many mages in the Inquisition. I will explore this momentarily. The Roman Catholic Church was not capable of forming such a cult all by themselves. No devout Christian is that smart. They had some help from the Settites, Toreadors, La Sombra, and, depending on who you asked, the Black Hand, who all made their own independent religious pies, stuck their fingers in each other's pies, and ate the manky crust, burning their tongues on the Catholic filling. The First Inquisition, as we have discussed many times in the past, played a large part in the destruction of our kind before and during the Anarch Revolt, but they were not the first incarnation of the Inquisition. Confusing, I know, but many of us are. Anyway, what came before them was the Shadow Inquisition, or the Holy Inquisition against the Devil and other demons, if we were to use its much longer and pompous title. What separated them from the First Inquisition is that they did not focus so much on those who commit to performing blasphemy. The Shadow Inquisition target the supernatural, vampires, werewolves, mages, and other denizens they deem as servant of Satan. In addition to this, they attempted to mask the existence of such creatures from the general populace in order to avoid mass panics. A sensible force, I might add, but only if they applied the same ethos to the supernatural they despised so much. The Shadow Inquisition consisted of 5 orders that straddled the thin line between faith that stands between the Christian people of Europe and the subtle fiends of hell, for they too had powers known as blessings, which consisted of rites and magics they used to fight the supernatural. I am also told that each order has its own drawbacks, a curse they received when they are gifted such powers. The orders are either monastic, which are run by the church, which there are 3 of, or lay, unordained individuals who hear the holy call. The Order of the Poor Knights of the Passion of the Cross of Acree, also simply known as the Knights of Acree, used militaristic precision and devotion to fight the supernatural. They and the following 2 orders were a monastic order. The Red Order of Saint Theodosius were known for their deep study of ancient religious texts, both holy and unholy. After all, knowledge is power, which can be a powerful weapon against the creatures that go boogaloo in the night. The Sisters of St. John were made up of nuns prone to mystical visions that they used to fight the supernatural. The gift from their founder, Saint Teresa, not to be confused with Mother Teresa, was just as much as a curse as it is a blessing. The Oculi Dei was one of the 2 lay orders that consisted of a network of individuals devoted to fighting the darkness. They were the most paranoid of the orders, as they did not trust each other, for they knew not who was controlling them or each other. They were no different from kindred in that regard when you think about it. Finally, there is the House of Moher now, who were a noble family of inquisitors whose curse was a rope of bad luck. They arguably had the most experience of the supernatural, but their understanding was pretty lacking regardless. The founders of the House of Moher now are somewhat relevant to this discussion, as it leads on to the next stage of the Inquisition's development. Frederick von Moher now and his brother Leopold were its founders. Yes, the same Leopold that would form the Society of Leopold out of the remnants of the Shadow and First Inquisition that survived an event the members of the Damned, Kindred or Cainites, refer to as the Burning Times, the near apocalypse caused by the Inquisition during the 14th and 16th centuries. Leopold's family curse, like many others within the Brotherhood, manifested itself as an allergy. Now this may seem rather cute to you, but he comes up in hives, rashes, wheezes, etc. in the presence of those of the supernatural nature. I suppose it is still rather cute, but you get as to why Leopold was particularly useful to the Inquisition. He would overcome the condition and become the first Inquisitor of the House of Moher now, and was granted special permission by Pope Gregory IX in 1231 to combat these unholy evils, creating the Society of Leopold in the process. Leopold would be killed by such a creature, horrifically and slowly, I hope. What is said to remain of Leopold are 3 fragments of his bones that are prized relics within the Inquisition. They were worked into a set of heavy jailer's keys kept on a thick iron ring that could paralyze any supernatural creature. Now, whether this is true or not, I cannot say. I have not been in a position where such a vampire hunter could test this out. Unlike the Inquisition that it originated from, the Society of Leopold lasted much more than a couple of centuries, for they are still a prevalent force in the underbellies of these modern knights. Many no longer act in faith, however, but most of its members are still comprised of Roman Catholic, now free from the Catholic Church as of 1908, I believe, which allows them to act more freely. I would not be surprised if the current Pope did not know they exist. Many of the members, like the monsters they hunt, like to organize themselves into sects to find their own place within their secret society. First you have the Order of St. Michael, sometimes known as Michaelettes, and they target demons. The Fathers of the Good Death are the hunters who specialize with vampiric dealings. The Children of Lazarus also seek the destruction of vampires, in addition to all manners of things undead. The other thing that makes them different from the Fathers of the Good Death is they are far more violent and angry than the Fathers of the Good Death, who are just priests who wish to purge their unholy spirits from our world to restore some bullshit concept of balance to their lives. You know what I mean. The Brethren of Albertus practice Fergie, a form of Lumina, which, like true faith, is an umbrella term for mortal magic. With this magic, they combat mages and sorcerers. The Sisterhood of St. Clare are a sect of nuns within the Society of Leopold that rarely see themselves in the front line of their battles. Instead, they are healers tending to the wounds of their fellow nutjobs. The San Benito are the sect most frowned upon within the Society of Leopold, for they do not wish to destroy the supernatural, but help them retain their humanity. Finally, there are the Sons of Tertullus, who focus their attention on raves and demonic spirits and disposing of the likes of psychics and mediums who deal with them. I would imagine this also means they occasionally target members of Clan Hecata, consisting of clans Cappadocian, Giovanni, and the various necromantic bloodlines and revenant families spawned from them, but it cannot be certain. The Sons of Tertullus are the largest society of Leopold's sect that has its own sects and organization ruled by an individual referred to as the Host of Hosts, with the members they ruled referred to as the Hosts. The Disciples of Lazarus, not to be confused with the Children of Lazarus, search for a way to resurrect those who died under the effects of possession. The Sickle and Crown sect criticizes knowledge as detrimental to faith and plunges into exorcisms without much preparation. Solomon's Sons search for knowledge about possession and the dead, which to me implies they work with the aforementioned disciples quite frequently. The Sect of Mary is another group of nuns martyred for a cause. There are 77 sisters prepared to commit suicide in the service of the sons to enter heaven, and this practice is encouraged by the Sect of St. James, advocating suicide as a means for entering heaven. They study the spirit world and are believed to have found a way in. If you want to know whether that is true or not, get yourself caught by them and ask. I'm sure they will tell you. Many of these Leopolds don't belong to the sect and are fairly individual within the order. Regardless, Leopolds themselves are in one of 4 sub-orders. The Condottieri are the Order's bodyguards, protectors, and defenders. The Gladius Dei are the elite core of the Society. The internal investigating and the judging is assigned to the office of the Censor. Unlike the other divisions, the Order of St. Joan is its own order that was brought into the Society for their knowledge of the supernatural. And regardless of sect and division, the Society of Leopold has its own hierarchies that its members adhere to. The Society of Leopold is led by the Inquisitor General, who has complete lifetime authority over its members and is located in Rome near the Vatican. The last time I was aware, it was an Ingrid Bauer, an Austrian woman known as the original Iron Maiden, who rules the Society of Leopold, wielding frightening understanding of our kind, torture and true faith, an ability of sorts one can use to exercise their faith in their religion to repel and, in some cases, burn vampires to ash. The General chooses provincials, who are chosen by the General and assigned to specific geographical regions, acting as advisors, scholars or mentors. The provincials choose abbés to act as stewards, who also choose censors, who are part of the office of the censor. They ensure doctrinal belief to rout out infiltrators, in addition to making sure no one within the order abuse their power or society funds. Counselors are inquisitors that have proved themselves as experienced and outstanding warriors against the forces of evil. The Standard Joe, the regular goon as it were, of the Society of Leopold are also known as tertiary, whilst those in training are novices, both in skill and in title. As organised and dedicated as the Society of Leopold seem to be, they have rarely been much of a threat to me, believe it or not. They just simply don't know much about our kind and have always been ill-equipped in dealing with us. Unfortunately, it would be members of Clan Nosferatu who would ruin that for everyone. I refer to ShrekNet, of course. As a reminder as to what it was, version 1 was created by an Uncle Smelly, otherwise known as Gerald Raffin, who created a special network piggybacked off the internet, so a little bit like a VPN in a way. It was primarily used by us to exchange information, trade secrets and keeping operations up to date. When it was hacked by a venture called Bobby Weatherbottom in 1990, Gerald opened the doors to other kindred in the 2000s with version 2, where ShrekNet now began functioning as a secret web browser. Now, I never thought this was a good idea, and I was unfortunate enough to be right as ShrekNet was compromised in 2004, where the NSA got in and took lots of data with them. The NSA, or the National Security Agency, is responsible for the collection and analysis of intelligence in the interests of the United States of America, and since its inception in 1952, the NSA has become one of the most powerful, secretive, technological, advanced, and invasive of the world's intelligence agencies. And if you think that is particularly grim, this contributed to the Second Inquisition's onslaught on kindred society between 2007 and 8, resulting in the Camarilla to terminate ShrekNet. Older and more experienced Nosferatu hackers dismantled ShrekNet servers, beginning the removal of as much canine communication as possible from the web. However, it was already far too late for that. With practically every conceivable amount of kindred information available to every conceivable governing body, the NSA reached out to the Vatican to inform and warn them about these vampiric dangers. Of course, the Vatican already knew about this and have done for centuries. They too would form an alliance, birthing the Second Inquisition. After years of careful research, the Second Inquisition targeted Vienna as what they call the capital of vampires. Can you believe that? The capital of vampires. And they launched an attack in 2008. A united USESOCOM and Vatican ESOG force, alongside with experienced Brazilian hunter teams, stormed the Vienna chantry of Clan Tremere, destroying it in the process, blaming it on an ISIS terror attack to the public. Vienna was not the only one to have a massive hit. I recently learned that Paris, Marseilles, was largely cleared of vampiric activity, with numerous captured vampires being placed in black sites and experimented upon to discover their weaknesses. LA has also had a similar treatment, as did my home in London many a year ago. I have seen many kingdoms rise and fall, Neonade. I have seen wars fought and lost, burned bodies scarred into brickwork, the souls of men and women obliterated by mortar, their ashes painting the streets a crimson red, the skulls of children tremble in the autumnal fallout. I have witnessed the evolution of man and woman unfold with my sullen eyes, so I speak with confidence and experience you can only dream of having when I say to you that the Second Inquisition may well be the end of our kind. The mortals now have large collections of kindred information. After thousands of years of keeping the mortals in the dark about our existence, beyond the occasional paranoid hunter, governing bodies know practically everything about us, our history, our mythos, our weaknesses. Presume that they know everything about us, kindred. It does not help matters that the Beckoning has summoned many elders to fight in the Middle East, some of the most experienced and powerful of kindred unable to help these helpless neonates and ancillaes in their stead. Many of my Methuselah brethren have also succumbed to this fate. Do not give me that look, child. You and the vast majority of our kindred society are destroying the little that is left of our kind. The Camarilla has retreated further into darkness, banning many forms of electronic communication, all forms in some domains. The Anarchs scorn this rule, coming arrogantly close to violating the Masquerade and bringing the Inquisition on their heads. And as for the Sabbat... The Sabbat has lost many of their strongholds and has to resort to clandestine terror attacks in other domains, and are but a shadow of its former self. So who do we turn to as our saviours in this moment of complete crisis? Who are the ones best suited for this climate? Ironically, it is the Finnbloods. They are human enough to throw their hunters off the hook, and are vampiric enough to control the Second Inquisition. Now, you didn't think about that, did you? To be kept updated, follow the Law by Night VTM Twitter and Instagram pages to find out when we will upload each episode. You can also find out by subscribing to the YouTube channel and clicking on the little bell, as you'll be immediately notified when the latest episode is live. Until next time, farewell.